Welcome, my dear friends. It is great to see you again. I'm Stephen Clements, a writer, a gamer, and an appreciator of big brain activities in general. And on this channel, I get to read my short stories, which on this special occasion, we are finishing out the third part of our three-part series of Going Home, a hubris tale with cosmic horror elements and other nasty bits of evil beyond time and space. Now, if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I'll put the links to those videos in the description below, and I do suggest you check those out before you finish this video. So go do them, then come back here. And in our last episode, we had finished up with Cyril taking the wheel from our main character on the drive back to Paris after having dropped many strange revelations about the deep history of mankind. That history that had been so awful it had to be erased and stricken from our racial memory. And so without further ado, let's get on with part 3 of Going Home. I awoke as Cyril suddenly stopped in front of the airport. Here we are. Sleep well? I felt great. Yes, I did. I never sleep that well on car rides. Your luck is turning around. Now come, I have 1,000 questions for you, Cyril said as he turned off the car. As we made our way through the airport and over the course of the flight, I was amazed to simply watch Cyril as he examined and questioned everything. As I explained what I could of aircraft and the technology he saw around himself, he spouted out principles of aerodynamics that would revolutionize the airline industry or even make it obsolete, as simply as if I were telling him how to make a cup of tea. His clear pleasure at being in and then above the clouds, looking down at the creation he helped build, made me beam with pride. Here I went to look at some mossy rocks, and I set free a prisoner of the centuries, who seemed to be looking at the world with new eyes. Upon landing, I called my mother Betty, my brother Adam, my cousin Chris, and my closest colleagues and collaborators on this project, Niumbu from the anthropology department and Diego Barre from the French department. They were pleased to hear from me, but mystified by my insistence on them coming over for dinner this very evening. I told them, honestly, that I had the most exciting news of my life to share with them and could not wait. All that mattered was that they agreed to come. When the bags were all packed into the car and I finished making the phone calls, Cyril asked to drive the car to the house. I was too busy to remember that I had not told him the way, but when we pulled into my circle drive, I could see that he found his way just fine. How did you know where to go? I had to ask. I see you, I see your energy, and I sense the location where your energy is strongest, to put it simply. You know when you get the feeling that you should do something or not do something, but cannot say exactly why you feel so? Yes. What I did was an outgrowth of that feeling inside you. I could teach you to develop yours further, although it will take time. You'll be amazed by what untapped potential you will find inside mankind. Knowing that was all Cyril would say for the time being, I changed the subject, thinking my home worthy of explanation to this freed angel. So this is my home. I'm very proud of it, as it is one of the few remaining antebellum homes left in this city. I painstakingly restored it, I began bragging. As the words left my mouth, I immediately felt embarrassed for bragging over the age of this pile of wood and plaster to an eternal being who had built the very bones of the earth. No doubt sensing my sudden hesitance, Cyril said, "It is lovely and grand. Someone was certainly inspired to create such a thing." I took that as a graceful excuse to stop talking, and I showed him into the house, explaining the different rooms and their functions, briefly touching on some of the modern marvels of technology incorporated into them. Cyril was most interested in the air conditioner, and I left him to examine how it worked while I took my leave to prepare what dinner I could cobble together for my guests. I had selected each guest carefully, as while I had many friends and acquaintances, frankly, not all people are equally valuable, especially in trying to demonstrate the principles at hand. My mother, Betty, dear sweet Betty, she had dealt with so many disappointments out of me, but still loved me, despite her personal objections to my lifestyle. She would be useful in showing the unconditional love so many people ascribe to God, which, if true, may jog Cyril's memory of having felt that before. The desire to feel that again may motivate him to be thoroughly sincere in his pursuit of forgiveness. My brother Adam and cousin Chris were also family, and they liked me well enough, as I did them. They could show the voluntary ties we place on each other, the more typical varieties of transgressions and insults people give each other, and the ensuing repair process of relationships. And I truly did pick my favorite kin, as if all of my siblings and cousins were drowning, and I could only save 2 of them, it would be Adam and Chris. As for Professors Niumbu and Diego Barre, while we have dealt no real injuries or harm to one another, nor had to make up for such things, I could not wait to show off my new prize to them. I had consulted with them extensively about elements of my public research into ancient ritual sites, even as I kept them in the dark about the simultaneous occult research going into the project. They were uninitiated in any way to those hidden truths behind our reality, but now I feel that they deserved to be the first witnesses of my triumph. I scrounged for something edible and wine sufficient to please my guests, even as the words that had sparked my sense of wonderment with an otherwise bland reality came to mind. Those spoken by Hamlet. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. When I was younger, I could not explain why those words touched me as they did. But as time and my intellect grew, I vowed to never settle for being Horatio or that bastard Crabgrass, to only exist a fiddle with words in the attempt to impress my peers, who were all trying vainly to do the same. Indeed, it was Aleister Crowley that did more to interest me in anthropology than Desmond Morris's exploration of our animal nature could. I found a copy of Crowley's Book 4 at an antique shop I visited with my mother, and something within me made me steal it, which may be part of that undeveloped sense of which Cyril spoke. Even then, it was guiding me towards hidden truths, truths soon to be revealed in their entirety by the being that wrote them. Interrupting my spinning thoughts, Cyril entered the kitchen. May I assist? In preparing to leave for France, I had left virtually nothing perishable behind. The research trip was anticipated to last weeks, but here I was with a bare larder and guests coming over. They would not care once I confessed to them my true purpose. My desperate eyes caught Cyril's, and he understood that I had nothing to offer my guests, or stand aside, he said simply. Turning water into wine is a feat more than one being can do. Same with bread and fish. In a series of what can only be termed miracles, Cyril finished making the last can of tuna and soybean oil into a copious plate of immaculate bluefin tuna sashimi, and set it next to the jug of freshly made wine on the table when the doorbell rang. One after another, my guests arrived, only to be instantly charmed by Cyril. I shushed requests to know what this big secret was that I invited them over to find out, and the incomparable quality of the dinner set out quickly quieted them. Dinner was joined, and I gloated over all the details I discovered about the ritual site itself, what made it peculiar, and what the implications of those details meant for the culture that made it. In one of the rare instances of explaining the significance of an artifact, I was overjoyed to be absolutely certain that my assumption was right, as Cyril had told me everything about the place during the plane ride from Paris. Unlike other researchers or the humanities, I did not have to guess, based on a few pottery shards, who these people were and what they did. I had an eyewitness account with complete reliability and ability to recall. This small taste of the gift that was Cyril was sweet. My guests found it all incredibly interesting, but it was time to earn my keep with my benefactor, and I did not want them to leave or beg off remaining here before I kept my word. I switched the conversation by working in a bon mot about a childhood incident with Mother. She took the bait and the conversation about past wrongs got underway. As we talked, I could not help but glance at Cyril to see that he was paying attention. As the evening wore on, my relatives exchanged meaningful glances, suggesting to me that they suspected I had another special announcement to make regarding my life choices, which was fine, as it kept them here and sympathetic. Cyril needed to see what sympathy looked like. My academic colleagues were too awkward in personal interactions to ever be so bold as to leave on their own accord, so we had time yet. Just when Chris was about to tell a joke, Cyril rose from the table, looking uncomfortable. Pardon me, I must excuse myself for a moment. I had not expected this, so I asked a bit worriedly, Is everything all right? Wine comes in, but it also has to go out, he jested. Sorry, I have a small bladder and low tolerance. I find it saves money. My company giggled, themselves heavy with the sublime port he had turned my tap water into. Cyril left the dining room, and I could not help but watch as he went. Ding dong! The doorbell? I had not invited anyone else. Who could that be? Excuse me, I said, rising from my seat to check. The sight of a short, pudgy, white-haired man in black vestment greeted me at the door, and by the rosy cheeks I knew it had to be Father Denham. I didn't care for his rough manner, but he was one of the deans of the college, so I had to deal with it, but not at my house. Father, why are you here? I asked brusquely. I had plenty of stout wine in me, and he wasn't invited, so it was his fault if he was dealt with rudely. Professor Armitage, so glad to see you. I heard you had returned, and I could not wait to see what you found on your expedition. I got some strange voicemails from your research assistant, and then Professor Diego Barre told me you were here, so I wanted to drop by. I had a function to attend earlier, so sorry I'm late. I hope I didn't miss too much. I had already gone over what I found, and he brushed off my rebuttal swiftly. I don't mind waiting around for the second telling, but let me go out back for a smoke first. Be right back, he said, pushing past me, cigarette already in mouth, fiddling in his pocket for a lighter. I sat back down and stalled the conversation, as both Cyril and Father Denham took an impossibly long time in getting back to the table. It may have only been a minute, but it felt like forever. Shockingly, my colleagues made a weak attempt to leave, but I kept them in place. Did Cyril know how to use a toilet? Did he even have a use for a toilet? To my chagrin, the first to return was Father Denham. From the look in his eyes, there was no tobacco cigarette he had smoked outside. Having a pot smoker in the Holy Orders would be a surprise. Father Denham silently turned to face the lit fireplace, so I began a recap of what I had told the group about the ritual site. My description was violently cut short by Father Denham burying the hook of the fireplace poker into my mother's neck. She screamed, as did we all, as we jumped up in shock. The priest pulled back hard on the poker, pulling her out of the chair onto the ground. Adam and Chris charged the completely silent Father Denham, with the old priest sending Adam sailing across the room behind him and Chris tackling him. The smell of burning hair proved that Chris had knocked the father back into the fireplace, but his black coat began burning as well. I watched in horror as the still quiet old man wrestled with Chris on the ground, oblivious to the fire. Behind me, I heard Professor Diego Barre cursing her cell phone. This damn thing! I'm calling 911, but it says no service available. What the hell? Professor Nyumbu was nowhere to be seen, but just then I heard the front door slam shut. Something told me those two things were connected. The fight continued on between a now flaming old Father Denham and cousin Chris, and I noted that Adam had not gotten back up off the floor after he had struck the wall. My mind raced with the awful, inexplicable fight going on in front of me, but I had to do something. I picked up a chair and used it to try to push Father Denham off Chris, but he was impossibly strong. With my help, Chris found the opportunity to squeeze out from under the dean of the liberal arts department and scurry away, hacking for air. My offensive completely stalled, however, and the father calmly, silently stood up, even as I pushed with all my might. Too late, I heard a womanish grunt and saw a glass jar flying through the air, burst on Father Denham, and the flames on him explode with renewed fury. "Did you throw the wine at him?" I screamed. "Yes, I didn't know what else to do." "Alcohol is flammable." Came her response as she turned and ran away towards the front door. As I feebly held the wooden chair up, holding the flaming dean arm's length away from me, I could see that neither Adam nor Mother had stirred. Mother lay in a growing pool of blood and silent. Father Denham continued advancing on me, pinning me against the wall, but safe for a few seconds longer. I could hear the door being wrestled. "I can't get the door open!" Diego Barre screamed. "I can't help you," I very honestly said. Just then, Chris swung the fireplace poker at Father Denham, hitting him hard enough to drive him back. There was no way Father Denham would do this, I thought. No way this was really happening. Maybe it was something in the wine, making us see things. Father Denham stumbled back against the window, setting the curtains on fire, which was sure to take the rest of the house with it. Remembering the fire extinguisher, I ran into the kitchen and shrieked when something caught me. It was Cyril. He was distraught. "Cyril, help us," I screamed at him. He held me still, and then he spoke. I am so sorry. I did this." "What?" I asked, things falling into place. He spoke haltingly. "I sensed the priest approaching the house, so I excused myself to prevent a fight in front of your family. I waited for him to leave, but then he said he would stay, and he went outside alone. I thought, here's my chance. I can ask this priest if I can be saved. But when he saw me, I could not even ask what came next. So exasperated by what I was hearing, He immediately started trying to banish me, to exorcise me, to hurt me. I did not even have time to think it through or talk him down. I just killed him. And then I panicked, thinking, what have I done? His cross dropped when I separated his soul from his body, barring my way into the door, but his body kept moving with the second life, because it still lives. I found a way around the cross, but I had to warp the rest of the house to get in. Cyril, I said, as clear and directly as I could, I need you to fix this. Can you do that? He looked like he was going to cry. No. Your mother's dead. So's the priest, Adam, and so will be you, your cousin, and your friend. Why? Did you not hear me a minute ago? I said, I am sorry. You did it. You and your family taught me what it is to feel sorry for something I've done. You showed me what these people meant to you, how you related to each other, and the sense of loss you feel over them dying, which is entirely different than the groveling victims and power-hungry bloodletters I met before. Their deaths meant nothing to me. But these do, he finished excitedly. Cyril, we're going to die here. Get us out. He shook his head. I cannot do that. You taught me the first of many lessons I have to learn before I can finish my journey to redemption. And if word gets out that all this happened because of me, nobody will help me finish it. I thank you so much. You taught me something the Creator never meant for me to know. I heard screaming and spreading flames behind me in the dining room, and I knew they would devour the rest of the house and me. But I was all I could muster. Shh, he said to me. You do not have much time left. And I made you a promise. I will answer every question you have before you die. First, you wanted to know what it was like to be me. Well, you're living it right now. The upside for you is that it will end soon. That despair, that trapped feeling, the pain of the flames, that is what it's like to be me. Until now. Now, I have a sliver of hope for something better. Now, what is your next question? Quickly now. You do not have much time. And that ends part 3 and the totality of my short story, Going Home. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I enjoyed writing it, and I enjoyed performing it for you. And if you'd like for others to know about it, why don't you give it a like and a comment? Help feed that algorithm. Over the course of these 3 episodes, I thank you for your time and that you chose to spend it with me and with my creation. And as we dear friends part for now, I wish you nothing but the best.